Kate Hardcastle, MBE, retail expert, joins me now. Kate, very good morning to you.
Good morning, James. Season's greetings.
So, yes, season's greetings. Now, so everybody had a lovely time at Selfridges yesterday, apparently. They were willing to wait outside the shop for several hours before it opened at 9. Why would you do that?
Well, I think there's always a percentage of the population that just enjoy the thrill of the chase, and I'm okay with that. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If they want to, let them get on with it. I think most walks of life enjoy getting value, whether it be at the premium end of life or where you get maybe a gift with purchase, or at the point where it really counts and you're watching every single penny and you need to get the best discount. We've seen the rise of the value retailers like Primark and Aldi and Lidl. So I think there's still that savviness about us. But as you mentioned earlier, there's a whole lot of consequence with this language of discount that retailers are speaking, because in the main, our bigger branded retailers in the middle market have had dire 10 years actually up till now. The rise of online, rise of experiential purchases over traditional stuff, material goods, and just generally the decline of the high street, which can no longer be based on retail. So it's a bit like the weather, really. You said, a bit bleak.
It is a bit bleak. And then on the other hand, it would appear as if every single discussion that we have is going to be confected is going to be interrupted by whether it's climate change or climate activism or climate crisis or climate emergency. And some people are linking a fall in shoppers, because apparently we all care about the environment and we don't need any more toot. Really?
Well, I started sourcing from Guangzhou in China for one of the businesses I worked in, I think in the early 2000s. And honestly, you went over there and you saw these vast spaces of complete warehousing full of stuff. And I did think even then, what do we need all this stuff for? I think when we've got to an era where we've got items of technology that dispense treats for your dog electronically, we are really in peak stuff. And I think actually many of us are turning around looking at it and think, well, do we need all of the stuff that we go in the usual house? Do we need all of the gifts we'd normally buy? And I think there's definitely an awareness and awakening of certain people. But I know you've got savvy listeners, so I know that they will see people be concerned about the environment and then go and use maybe a discount chain, maybe some provenance of their goods, that the quality of it, they don't know where it's come from, the origin of it, it perhaps isn't as ethical as we would like, as we've seen with the Christmas card crisis in Tesco that broke out just before Christmas.
And I suppose you're absolutely right. There are people who are out there to, whether it's capture or otherwise, and there are more ethical issues which are going to have to be answered by retailers.
I think it's about both parties coming together, having more conversations. I think very much the downfall of retail has been because, simply put, they haven't put the consumer at the heart of everything they do, as well as the rise of technology and a more savvy consumer. Plus, we've got rents, rates, etc., affecting all of the high streets too. I think that if retailers had the consumer more at heart and listened to them more and engaged with how they wanted to shop and the efficiency they're looking for, they would probably strive to create better strategies. And I think that would have happened over the last 10 years, in fact, maybe 20 years when they were planning for that. And I'm talking about the big brand, middle market brands that we're going to be talking about in the new year, who've got challenging returns on their Christmas period again. I think also it's about consumer awareness. I mean, really, do you need it? And if you don't need it, it's probably going to help you budget-wise, and it's going to help the environment if we just generally don't buy as much as we have been consuming.
In terms of who's going to survive and who's not, are there any indications yet as to who's having a good Christmas and festive season and sale and who's not?
Well, I really am a little bit reticent to make a comment on this, because I'm always very aware that shop workers who are your front line will have been absolutely working so hard over the Christmas period to try and make those plans work. And if I try and hazard a guess, that's a whole team of people on the front line that will have just had a very busy, exhausting Christmas, probably work Boxing Day, and don't need me trying to predict the fall of the organisation they work for. What I will say, though, is the brands that have had very challenging results over 2019, I've been monitoring their sales, their shop floors, their customer service experience in about 20, 30 different towns and cities over December. And I've seen no uplift or change really in what I would be expecting. So I don't see anyone's going to have a golden turnaround period. I will say this though, James, how frustrating, how challenging to see retailers who have had terrible 2019, terrible returns in terms of profits, not doing anything differently at Christmas. Suddenly you get a bit of an influx of a customer, you might get a bit of a queue. Customer service hasn't got any better. No one's actually got any methodology of how they're going to attract those customers back into January and onwards. It's literally take the cash while you're in here, worry about tomorrow. And I think that kind of strategy has been a lot of the downfall of the middle market, because consumers just want so much more from you now. They want value, they want experience, they want everything at a better price. They want you to have an enjoyable, in-store environment, because they don't have to shop there. They just want to shop and have that feeling of shopping. And we've seen the rise online, but we've also seen some troubled online brands too, because we know, again, that's an area where operational costs like returns are very, very high too. I think the experience economy is going to be the winner for 2019 as well. We're going to be buying more and more events, going out more, ticket sales are going to be up. I think that's going to be the winner.
So the winner, as you say, talking about events and experiences, but then also, are we seeing once again the rise of the brand? So the brand that has a shop doesn't care whether you buy it in the shop or online because you're buying their brand. The difficulty that we've got is those who curate other people's brands. So the retailer that buys other people's stuff and doesn't have any proprietary stuff of their own. That's where the real danger is, and that's where the market is perhaps weakest for them.
Yeah, I think brands have had to work on the fact that it's going to be survival of the fittest. So if you have a premium toy brand, you want that in as many organisations and retailers as possible. You want as many touch points to get your product out there and sold. And we've seen a lot of brands fragment so that they've got their brand in perhaps more value items and more luxury items so that they can run the whole spectrum of consumer engagement. And generally, we've got a lot of house of brands scratching their heads saying, well, where do we fit into this? How do we compete? And they've spoken the language of discount. We saw peak discounting from Black Friday onwards. It's never gone back. And you could tell that consumers were holding on because, the thing is, if you email your database and tell them it's 20% off, and 3 days later you tell them it's 30% off. They're very clever. They know exactly what's coming next. And if you don't need it, it's something perhaps you quite like, why wouldn't you hold off till 70%? And I can tell you those 70% discounts will happen in a couple of days.
Oh, wow, you told us. Love that.
True.
There we go. Looking forward to the 70%ers. Kate Hardcastle, thank you very much indeed. That's Kate Hardcastle, MBE, joining us. She's a retail expert talking about those sales and just hanging out for those 70% discounts.